Hey everyone, welcome. My name is John. I'm one of the co-founders of Snorkl and super excited to have you join us here this afternoon or this evening to learn a little bit more about Snorkl. There's a chat here, a feature. Feel free to chime in the chat. Let us know where you're joining from. If you've used Snorkl before, super excited to have you here. If you've used, please feel free to chime in and share some of your experiences as we're going along. If you've never used Snorkl before, you're also in the right place, and I'm super excited to get to share more of Snorkl with you. Just a really quick intro. My name is John. I'm one of the co-founders of Snorkl. I was a high school math teacher. And one of the things that I always wanted to be true for my students was that they had opportunities to explain and share their thinking and make math class more than just about answers, but actually about their thinking process. And so we built Snorkl with this goal in mind, allowing students to share and explain their thinking. And we started in math class. And what we realized, of course, was that it's really valuable for students to explain their thinking, not just in math class, but in their science class, in their ELA class, in social studies, world languages, and so valuable to get our students talking more and sharing. So excited to show you more of how that works. Thanks so much for joining us. Susan, New Jersey, Lauren from New Jersey, awesome to have you here. Tiffany in Oklahoma, Jill from New York. I was just out in New York last week. Kristen, great to have you here from Frisco. Nicole in Wisconsin, awesome. Fatima, Ted, so great to have you all here. I'm going to share my screen here and walk you through some portions of the Snorkl platform. If you've never checked this out before, you can actually create your own free Snorkl account as well and use this with your students, hopefully as soon as tomorrow. So I hope to plant some seeds and give you some ideas as well. If you're just joining, feel free to jump into the chat where you're joining from. And if you've seen Snorkl before, or if you've used it before, go ahead, drop a note in the chat if you've used it before as well. Awesome. All right. So our homepage is snorkl.app, and from there you can sign in and create an account. If you've never seen Snorkl before, the way it works is students record and explain their thinking in response to a teacher's question, and then we use AI to give them really immediate personalized feedback. And so this is just an example here. This is a 4th grade math activity, but you can actually use Snorkl in any content, any subject area, any grade level, and I'm going to show you more of what we've got pre-built in our library and how you can also use your own content. But the way it works is students have different tools to show and record their thinking. So students can draw and highlight and type out text. And then when they're ready, what makes Snorkl really special is they press this record button and they talk. And Snorkl records their voice and it records what they're doing on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and do this 4th grade math question just as an example. If you've seen me demo this before, I apologize. I demoed this one a lot, but it's just fun and it's easy and it's visual. So I'm going to press this record button and start my explanation. So it's asking us here, what will the width of Tyler's frame be? So I'm going to go ahead. It says that we're making a rectangular frame whose length is 29 centimeters. So I'm going to label one of the sides of my rectangle as 29. And I know on a rectangle, the opposite sides are equal. So I'm going to label this other side as 29 as well. And I'm going to add together those two sides. So 29 plus 29, let's say I think that adds up to 48. And the total perimeter is 146. So I'm going to do 146 minus 48. And that gives me 98. And so let's say I think that the width of this frame is 98 centimeters. All right, hopefully you caught there. I made a couple of mistakes, right? I didn't add my 29 plus 29 correctly. I also, I should have divided by 2 there at the end to find out how big each width was. But that's the idea. Students talk and explain their thinking. And as I was talking, Snorkl's AI is capturing both my voice and what I'm doing on the screen to give me feedback and a score. And in our feedback, we want to actually celebrate what's going right. I knew that opposite sides of a rectangle should be equal. I tried to add those together. I even tried to subtract those from the total. And so we want to celebrate those things and then also ask some questions about some of the mistakes. So here is my feedback on the right-hand side. I got it incorrect. I got a 2 out of 4 for my explanation. I get some praise on what I'm doing well. Great job recognizing the opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. And then it's also saying, I noticed you calculated 29 plus 29 equals 48. Can you double check that addition? And the last piece of feedback here, after subtracting the lengths from the total perimeter, what does the remaining amount represent? Is it one with or something else? We're actually asking a conceptual question there. We're not just telling students, remember to divide by 2. We're asking them and supporting students to do the thinking and the heavy lifting in the way that we want and we know is so important for their learning. So students can get that feedback immediately. They can have that feedback read aloud to them if they need it. They can actually get that feedback in over 40 different languages if helpful, and they can use that feedback right away to respond again. And we see this all the time. Students are using their Snorkl feedback to try multiple times and improve. And I think part of that is the immediacy of the feedback, but part of it is also that students' voices are attached to these responses. And so oftentimes we hear from teachers that their students are trying, even though they haven't asked them to, they're trying multiple times. And I think there's something really special about the ownership that students take over their work when their voice is attached to it. That is the Snorkl experience. Christina, so awesome to hear that you just tried it for the first time today. That's really great. Yeah, students are motivated to improve their scores. I was talking to a teacher the other week in New York who said he's got to tell his students that they have to close their Chromebooks and move on with what comes next in the lesson. Otherwise, the kids just want to keep going. They want to improve their score as well. So I just showed you a quick math example here, but Snorkl actually supports all subject areas. So you can use Snorkl to have students explain a reading passage or a text. You can have students use Snorkl to analyze results from a science experiment. We actually support reading fluency in Snorkl. And so I'm going to show you some examples here of how you can actually use Snorkl to get some of your younger students practicing their reading and getting feedback. We also support world languages, which means at the secondary level, high school level, you can have students practicing their Spanish, their French, their German, whatever the language is, and get feedback, really good, rich oral language feedback. So that's a little bit about Snorkl on the student side and some of the content. And then on the teacher side, what we do is we surface these awesome artifacts of our student thinking to teachers immediately. They're automatically scored by the AI. Teachers can actually take their cursor and just scroll over a student response, and see what the students did and said in their response. You can jump in, of course, and look at the feedback that your students are getting. Teachers can actually override and change student scores. And we have the AI analyze the class as a whole to surface trends and insights. And so the Insights tab here will show you some of the trends of what's happening across the student work. Where are your top exemplars in the class? What are some of the mistakes that your students are making and who's making those mistakes? So you know who you might pull into a small group or support more. Victoria, thanks so much for the comment here in the chat. Use it for warm-ups and review. And yeah, you can make adjustments to anything in there, and including the activities that are pre-created in the library. A lot of times when Snorkl is being used in class, teachers are assigning 1 to 2 Snorkl activities. We think about this as like the really special part of the lesson where you want students to get to the level where they can explain and share their thinking. It's not the entire lesson. It's oftentimes used as a warm-up. It's used for practice. It's used for formative assessment. And so there's lots of different rich ways that you can use it. I'm seeing in the chat here, if you're having any trouble with the connection at all, another option, you can also see this live stream video on YouTube. Thank you, Monique, for dropping in the chat there. There's the link. So if for whatever reason the StreamYard is giving you trouble, feel free to jump in on the YouTube as well. All right, so that's the basics of Snorkl. That's the teacher experience and the student experience. Students record and explain, they get instant feedback. We surface that all to teachers. Our library in Snorkl has thousands of pre-created activities that you as a teacher can choose from. And then you can also create and upload your own. So I'm going to show you both of those things here right now. To choose your own activity, I'm going to go to find an activity here. It'll bring me to the Snorkl library. You can search the Snorkl library by topic. You can search it by standard. We've got state standards in here for all states, as well as some international ones. If I scroll down here, you'll see that we've got math, science, ELA content. Actually, just a whole bunch of brand new high school ELA content just went up this week. We're very excited about that. There's history, social studies, world languages. If we scroll down, there's actually edu protocols. There's some content here from illustrative math, some Texas Star practice, and we're just beginning to add New York Regents practice as well. So lots of options as you get started. I want to jump in and show just a couple of different use cases. So I mentioned before, you can use Snorkel in all different content areas. One of them that I mentioned was also reading fluency. And so I just want to show a really quick, simple reading fluency example. This is in our kindergarten library. It's a very simple text, as you might imagine for a kindergarten student. And what students see, again, is that whiteboard experience. On this one, we actually don't need any of those tools. So those tools are turned off, but students have the button here when they're ready to press record, and then they can speak out loud and share their reading. The sun is up. The rat can see the booze. He is in the booze. All right, so I made a little mistake there, but the AI is actually going to analyze what I said to give me feedback, and we use different AI tools to actually capture and give feedback on the pronunciation when it's a reading fluency activity and when it's a world language activity. So we'll actually adjust the AI tools depending on the type of activity and the type of feedback that's needed. Obviously, that could be a distraction for something like world languages or a place where we don't need feedback on pronunciation. So we also have in our library those world language activities I just mentioned. And a place I'd like to point folks to, especially if you're just getting started with Snorkel, is the general section of the library has some getting started activities where you can actually find the peanut butter and jelly sandwich question. You can find macaroni and cheese. Would you rather eat macaroni and cheese with a spoon or fork? These are just some fun, lighthearted ways that you can actually introduce Snorkel to your students for the first time. And I will say this at any age level. You could certainly use this in a lower elementary school classroom, a first grade, second grade classroom. You could also use an activity like this with your high school seniors and juniors. And actually, I think it's a lot of fun for students to get to engage in Snorkel this way the first time that they use it, and then you can transition into some more academic content as well. Anything that's in the Snorkel library, you can try out yourself. You can add to your own library, which will allow you to edit it, or you can assign it directly to your students in your class. Snorkel makes it really simple to share activities with your students. You actually don't need to pre-roster your students at all. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a new class here. I'm going to assign it, and it will generate a share link that I can then copy and go paste on my LMS, however I want to share this with my students. If I click go to activity, it will bring me to my activity dashboard, which is where I would see all of those student results. Like we were just looking at one of these a moment ago. Right here is where I see all my student responses. They're automatically scored. Right now, I don't have any student responses for this activity I just assigned. But in the top right-hand corner, there is that share button again. And so I can use this to grab that link, or I can have my students sign into Snorkel using join.snorkel.app and putting in the code. Once students enter that code, they're automatically added to your class roster in Snorkel, which means that they'll be able to see any of their old activities, any of their new activities, and come back to Snorkel anytime. We make student sign-in super simple. You use Microsoft or Google single sign-on. We're actually adding some integrations for additional sign-in options here this winter. So stay tuned about that, but really simple to get students in there. If you've never used this before, it's usually very simple to get started, and we're happy to sign a data privacy agreement with your district if there's not already one in place. But at this point, Snorkel is in all 50 states and in thousands of schools across the country. So we'd be happy to support you to get that set up. I'm just checking the chat here. If you've got questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I will try to address them. And then Monique is joining us on the call here to also support with the chat. Thank you, Monique. So she's able to answer some questions as we go as well. Yeah, is it Tanya here? Tonya, great for EL students to practice. I think this is one of the things that we hear from districts all the time. So, and one of the, I think, really special things about Snorkel is it just ties into so many different contexts and serve so many different needs, right? We have school districts that have purchased Snorkl because they're truly trying to support their students' math proficiency. We have districts that have purchased Snorkl because they are really excited about getting their English language learners talking more. I know talking to a number of districts that their oral language proficiency scores on WIDA and Access are oftentimes the lowest. And the way to get that practice is not just, pull out classes can be great to support those students, but actually if we can put opportunities in every single classroom, in their math class, in their science class, in their socialist class, for them to talk and explain, it just creates so many rich opportunities for them to grow that academic language and support that growth over time. All right, I'm moving fast here, trying to make sure that I cover all the things. Amanda, great question also there about feedback. Yeah, so students can get their feedback actually in over 40 different languages. And so if they're new to country, there's a lot of options to support students. The way that students can adjust their feedback language, it's in the top right-hand corner of their account. I'm actually on a teacher account right now, so let me switch over to a student account. This is what Snorkl looks like on the student side. It's very simple. They see a list of their classes. If they click on a class, they see a list of the different assignments. If they've completed any of those assignments, they'll see that it's already submitted and the score that they got. If they click on that, they can actually go see their responses. But on that teacher side, on that student side, the way that students can change their feedback language, it's in the top right-hand corner here under their profile. And you can go to language settings, and there's over 40 different languages that Snorkl can understand students in and give feedback to students in. If students set their language setting to something other than English, we will actually automatically translate that back for teachers back into English with a click of a button. And what's really cool is we'll actually translate their transcript of what the student said, the closed captions, back to English as well. And so you as a teacher can instantly understand and see what was it that your student was explaining their thinking, perhaps in Mandarin or in Spanish or whatever the language was. So that's just a little bit about the language accessibility features. I'm going to jump back into the teacher side, and I want to go through how you can create your own activities in Snorkl and how you can actually share those activities with your colleagues and your peers as well. I think one of the really special things about Snorkl is you can get students talking, explaining, and sharing their thinking on actual tasks directly from your curriculum. You can really easily upload and create your own, and we allow you to then share those with other colleagues, either at your school or anywhere in the world. So the way that you can create your own activity is from that homepage. There's a create an activity button, and I'm going to give this a title, and I'm going to choose an activity type. There's 4 different activity types in Snorkl. What we've been looking at so far is the whiteboard recording. And this is our bread and butter. It's allowing students to show and explain and record their thinking both visually and verbally. But we also provide a few different options here. The second option here is whiteboard only. That is just capturing the student's visual response to give them feedback, no audio recording. The third option is audio only, really valuable for world language class or for reading fluency or a variety of different use cases. And then the last option there is writing. I'm going to come back to writing at the end. It's the most different of all these different response types. Something we introduced this past summer. We've gotten some really positive reception and feedback, and there's some great improvements we're also making to the writing activities over the next couple of months. So let me go through that whiteboard recording process, how to set up an activity. I'm going to click whiteboard recording, and then I'm going to add my content here to the whiteboard. So you can either, of course, type your own question in, or you can copy and paste or drag and drop an image directly onto that whiteboard. And so I just got a screenshot here of a question from my physics curriculum. I'm just pasting it there on the whiteboard. I'm going to press done editing. And I'll scroll down here to where it says AI feedback settings and press this big purple button. And when I press that purple button, generate from question, what happens is the AI will analyze what I just put on the whiteboard to generate a criteria for success or an answer key for the question I just put on the whiteboard. And we show that to you as the teacher. So you actually have power and control to adjust it. You can change what the AI is looking for in student responses. You can add your own criteria. You can specify certain vocabulary or strategies. You've got a lot of power here to guide how the AI is going to give feedback to your students. All right, so this is what the AI just generated. I just put that question on the whiteboard. It identified that that was a high school science question. Here is the text from what I put on the whiteboard. Here's a description of the image. And here's a step-by-step solution for how it would solve for the kinetic energy of that block. There's an edit button here. And when I click the edit button, I can adjust any of these settings. I could make this for a younger grade level. I could add students must explain also why potential energy converts to kinetic energy. You have a lot of power over guiding how that you want the AI to score and give feedback. You can also say something like, grade students very generously, or I should say score students really generously. You can actually give the AI additional guidance there for how hard it should score, and talk to it as if you were just informing a teacher down the hall on how you'd want to score that work. When you're done setting up that criteria, you hit assign, and now it's created. I can again share that link or that join code with my students. So the steps were, I copied some content on the whiteboard. I pressed the big purple get generate from question button. The AI set it up. I reviewed it, and we've created our Snorkl activity. Once you've created an activity, that activity actually lives in the My Library section of your account. And from there, you can go ahead and assign it again to other classes. You can share that activity with other teachers. If you're on a premium account, you can actually share it to your school or district library. And we just recently added collections. And so you can actually create, they're sort of like folders, but different ways that you organize your activities. And you can actually share collections. This is one of the really exciting things with other teachers. So for example, if I'm a biology teacher, and I've created a bunch of biology activities for Unit 1, I can actually share my Unit 1 biology folder with the other biology teachers in my school or even in my district or even online, and allow them to also be collaborators and use those same activities. I'm going to go back to the chat here. Monica, I've done an incredible job, I know, of keeping up here. Great questions about activity limits. Yeah, so everything that I've shown you here is available on the free Snorkl accounts. We allow you to create your own activities. We allow you to share it with your students and use it with your students. There are activity limits of 20 activities on the free accounts, and you have the options of deleting old activities to create space for new ones. We also have school and district subscriptions. And so if you are interested in that, would love to help you bring it to your school or your district. I think a great place to start is try out the free account. Get your students talking and sharing and explaining. And please reach out and let us know how it goes. We'd love to support you in that. We'd love to hear about it. And we find that it's oftentimes really fun to see students snorkeling in class, and you walk into a classroom where 30 kids are talking, where 30 kids are deeply thinking about what they're going to say and how they're going to say it. And it just engages students metacognitively at a deeper level. It engages their language capacities at a different level. And it looks and feels very different than almost any other ed tech tool out there as far as the student engagement. And it's a lot of fun. All right. Good question. If students do not want to leave verbal feedback, which option should the... Yeah. So great question. So there is the option, if you don't want students to record, you can choose the whiteboard only option. It gives students a whiteboard where they can draw or type their response. I'm a huge fan of the recording feature. I think it's so valuable to get our students talking, but we understand that there's different contexts and different times where you might want to use different tools. One of the questions that we actually get a lot is I have 30 kids in my classroom. I don't think it's going to work to have my students talk and record. And whenever someone says that, my first response is always try it. We use an AI tool to actually capture the student's voice and follow a single student's voice through the length of the recording. And so it does quite a good job of actually picking up an individual student's voice, even if your room has 30 other student voices talking at the same time. So if that's what's holding you back, I really encourage you to try it. I was in a classroom last week in New York City where it was a high school math classroom. 30 kids were sitting at their desk talking and recording in Snorkl. No one had headphones. No one had to get up and move across the room. But the AI tool just does a really great job of capturing that and following a voice through like the recording. And I know for teachers, I was a teacher for 10 years. I know that can feel a little scary to have 30 kids talking at once. I like to liken it to a turn and talk. If all your students are talking and it's a turn and talk that has some like built-in feedback and accountability and support and actually captures their thinking in a really rich way. And so it's a really unique opportunity. I mentioned before that I was going to share a little bit about writing activities. So let me make sure I give voice to that. And then if I have a chance here, I'd love to show you Snorkl Coach as well, just really quickly. So writing activities are just a little bit different than anything else because it's not based on a whiteboard. Instead, this is what a writing activity looks like. Students have a prompt or a question from their teacher. The teacher can also add sources for the students. And students have a rich text editor here on the right-hand side where they can type their response. When students are done typing their response, they can submit their work. And the AI, again, is going to give feedback aligned with the teacher's criteria, which, again, you can edit and adjust to give them a score and feedback on how they did. Students can use that feedback right away to respond again, but you can use this in science class for practicing CERs. You can use this in social studies class for writing DBQ. You can see that obviously, I was not very impressed here by my short essay about wolves. But one of the things I love to point out here is we're really intentional about praising the revision process for students in writing activities. And so my first piece of feedback here, I can see that you added more enthusiasm about wolves being really, really powerful. The AI actually knows that I submitted a response before where I didn't have that piece. And so the neat thing about this is if the students are using that AI feedback to improve their responses, the AI is going to acknowledge that progress and celebrate it as students go. On the teacher side, again, you have a similar dashboard where you can see your students' responses. You'll notice that we will flag the teacher if the student copied and pasted all of their content onto the whiteboard. You can turn that flag off. Say, for example, they first wrote it in a Google Doc and then copied and pasted it. That's fine. But we do want to surface for teachers if that was not the expectation and create an opportunity there for a conversation. All right, let me check the chat. Yeah, great question here. Rubrics are, so every Snorkl activity is scored on a 0 through 4 scale. Within that 0 through 4 scale, you have a lot of power to guide it. So you can certainly put in, here's what I think a 4 should be, here's what a 3 should be, here's what a 2, 1, 0. You can define that for the AI. What we don't currently allow for is customizing that scale score. It's something we get feedback on quite a bit, something that we've certainly considered, and we're trying to figure out how the best way to do that is without making it overly complex on the teacher side. Yeah, Catalina, we really want to encourage students to be talking and sharing their thinking. I think one thing that's really important to note on Snorkl, like math and science activities, you have to explain your thinking, not just show your work. And so if you would just solve it and show your work, that will not get you a 4 on any math or science activities. And the purpose of this, actually, we want to raise the bar for for student output, we really want to encourage them to share and explain. And so that is by design that that works in that way. Matt, really would love to connect with you about the iPads. We've got lots of districts who are using Snorkl with iPads. It works pretty well, but if there's specific barriers you're running into there, would love to connect and hear more about it and see what we can do to support. Bernard, great question. We get that question a lot. There's nothing built into the platform currently to limit student responses, but certainly we have teachers who will announce that to their classes. Snorkl will save every attempt that a student makes on responding to an activity. And so you can look at their first attempt, their latest attempt, their best attempt, all those things. This was really fast, and I had a great time, but I know 30 minutes goes really fast. If you haven't seen Snorkl Coach before, it's actually activated on all the sample activities in your teacher account. So you can go in here, you can play around with Snorkl Coach, you can have a conversation about your response prior to submitting it. It can see your whiteboard and support you as well. That feature is just on our premium accounts as well. But one other way that we ensure access for all students and making sure that students can get some extra support if they really need it. I, once again, really appreciate you joining here for this short little 30 minutes of Snorkl 101. Really encourage you, if you haven't yet, to try it out. You can go to snorkl.app and create an account and reach out if we can be of support to you, either individually or to your team. Would love to talk more about Snorkl. I hope that you can pick up one of these here and throw a Snorkl on in class too. We'll stick around for a few minutes. If there's extra questions in the chat, I'm happy to answer those. But want to say a huge thank you for joining and have a great rest of your Wednesday evening. Victoria, great question. Yeah, in each activity has its own individual links. Thank you, Monique, for responding here too. So sometimes teachers will assign multiple activities and students can navigate between them on their student account without the unique link. But other times teachers are choosing to just share the unique link each time. So both are options. Yes, thank you. Thanks for joining. Have a great evening.